What's up, people of the internet and beyond? My name is Brandon David King, a.k.a. the Movie King, you already know. And today, people, today, on Martin Luther King Day nonetheless, I am reviewing the new film, Selma. I figured I could either wait to review this till Tuesday, or I could just review it today because it's Martin Luther King Day, and I figured, what other chance am I going to get to review a Martin Luther King movie on Martin Luther King Jr. Day? So essentially, here it is. Martin Luther King. So Selma, the movie I'm reviewing, obviously, is directed by Ava DuVarney, who did a couple of smaller films earlier, and stars David Oyelowo, Carmen Ejoga, Tim Roth, Tom Wilkinson, Common, Oprah Winfrey, Stephen James, among others. Very large cast, mostly relatively unknowns, but still a very talented cast nonetheless. Essentially, Selma focuses on the Selma to Montgomery marches that occurred in the 60s after Dr. King had received his Nobel Peace Prize. He comes back to the South and says, well, blacks can't vote. Well, they can vote, but most of the white legislature and the white juries won't allow blacks to vote in Selma and most of the South. So he goes to President Johnson, played by Wilkinson, and President Johnson essentially says, well, I have a bunch of priorities right now, come back to me later. And Dr. King says, this cannot wait. Sorry, I do a horrible Dr. King impression. Sorry, I just can't. And Dr. King goes back to the South with his whole movement of people. Protests ensure. It goes live on television. People are shocked by it. They come down to Selma. They say, we support you, Dr. King. And essentially, it is a three-way battle between President Johnson, who's essentially trying to be the mediator in all this, Dr. King, who's of course trying to push for civil rights, and Governor George Wallace, who is played by Tim Roth in this movie, who essentially wants not slavery to stay, but essentially segregation to stay in Alabama and the rest of the South. I came into this movie with high hopes. I really did. Much higher hopes than the other film that I reviewed this week. But I didn't know that it would be this good. This is a fantastic movie. Sorry, I gotta bring up my notes again. Gotta bring up my notes. Gotta bring up my notes. Wrong password. Okay, so, what do I like about this movie? Well, first of all, David Oyelowo. David Oyelowo was fantastic in this. He was one of only 2 snubs. 2! I know a lot of people are saying this year's Oscars was horrible. I hate the nominations. Oscars, F you. No good nominations. Well, to me, there are only 2 snubs. One was the Lego Movie, which I still didn't understand, and the other was David Oyelowo for Best Actor. I thought he had a damn good chance. He was fantastic in this role. I didn't see David Oyelowo in this role, mostly because I haven't seen a bunch of David Oyelowo films prior to this, but I saw Dr. King in this. I saw Dr. Martin Luther King in this. He looked the part, he sounded the part, he played the man well, he played the leader well. That's one of the things about this movie. It gets the man right. We knew the legend. We knew that this was Dr. King, the guy who made the I Have a Dream speech and who made the Nobel Peace Prize and made huge advancements in civil rights. We didn't quite know the man. This gives us a little more insight into that. Especially in the scenes with his wife, Coretta, who's played, I think, brilliantly by Carmen Ejoga in this movie. Especially because there are scenes in this movie where he's receiving death threats and messages from the FBI that are saying, you need to stop this or else something will happen to your family or your children. And Coretta is just like, you have to stop this. They're going to kill our kids. And he's basically saying, no, I have to continue this because they don't know what they're talking about. And it's a very brave choice of him. And it's a very human-like choice of him. And I think that's something that Martin Luther King needed to be shown in the light of that. We've seen him as the legend. Now we get to see him as the man. I think in both of those aspects, Oyelowo was brilliant in this. Tim Roth and Tom Wilkinson, I think they're both good sides of the other coin. President Johnson in this movie, played by Wilkinson, he does have a lot on his plate. If you know the history, you know that he did have a lot on his plate. And yeah, he wasn't as cruel to King, but he had a lot of stuff on his plate and he prioritized and he said, I have to leave this for later. So essentially he was kind of doing a job in that sense. But then you have Roth, who is great as Governor Wallace. He plays the slithery kind of, trickery-infused sort of Governor Wallace that you'd expect to see from the history books. Not essentially just a mustache-twirling villain, but pretty damn close. Essentially saying, we need to use force on this. We cannot just sit by and watch Dr. King make disturbances. And while I don't think this is a good ideology, I think he played the part quite well. I, once again, don't like the part, but I think he played it well, and so did Wilkinson. I actually think Wilkinson was probably better in this movie as President Johnson than most other President Johnsons we've seen on film, because he was sort of a mediator of sorts. I've mentioned Carmen Ejoga. I think she's great in this. She played more of King's emotional sector. Essentially, whenever King drifted too far into the political sphere or the civil rights sphere, she essentially came back to him and said, you have kids, you have family. Know that we care about you and know that you have us to risk, even if you don't think you have anything. And that kind of makes him think more often, essentially saying, yes, I do have things to lose. Besides the cast, I know I've gone on and on about David Oyelowo. I need to go on about other things. Ava DuVarney's direction is great. I can't wait to see what she does next. The way she handles the actors and the situations is great. The protest scenes are scary to watch. Do not bring young kids to see this, but they are very accurate. If you watch the videos of the old protest marches and how police were beating up people, it's accurate, but it's scary accurate. Don't bring young kids to see this, but if you're an adult and you can handle this stuff, you're going to be impressed by this. What else is there to say about this film? Sorry, I'm scrolling down my notes. Yes. The setting in this movie is great. The set design is awesome. I don't know if they filmed on the location. I may need to check that out. But I thought the set design, if it's set design at all, was great. And even the settings themselves, they seemed rustic, they seemed iconic. The areas that they did and the shots that they did in the city, there's a particularly memorable shot when they're just starting their first march to Montgomery, or at least attempting to, when they're just coming around the streets. And I think the shots they did for that were fantastic shots. I love Ava DuVarney's direction in this. Some of the negatives, I thought, it goes on slow. And it's not slow like Black Hat slow, and go watch my Black Hat review, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But some of the shots with like the protest scenes and the scenes with MLK and his wife, I thought they dragged on a little bit. I know a lot of people disagree, but and they can go slow. I have no problem with them going slow. Get the message across, that's fine. But there are certain scenes during the protest when someone's getting beaten up and you're saying, okay, we're still with the shot. Okay, we're still with the shot. Okay, we're still with the shot. And it gets a little bit annoying. It doesn't get really annoying. It's just a nitpick that I had with the film. Another thing that I thought was missed, I would have loved to see more of Malcolm X. Because he is in this movie. He's played by an actor by the name of Nigel Thatch, who, go look him up. I did. He's got a couple things going. And I would have loved to see more because I've read so much about Malcolm X and MLK's relationship with each other and how it influenced like Professor X and Magneto from the X-Men series. And I'm like, well, I love those two. What were the original two like? I want to see a film about that. And I know it's not supposed to be a film about this, but Malcolm X was, spoiler alert, he dies in this movie because the time frame takes place when Malcolm X dies. And I would have loved to see how they reacted to each other at the end of their lives. He does mention it near the end of the movie, but I would have loved to see more relationship between those two. But overall, Selma gives great actors, great performances, a great setting, and a great director, a great sphere of influence to work with, and all four elements work just great with one another. There is missed potential, and yeah, you could call it a white guilt film. I don't understand white guilt films. I have a whole nother problem with that in general. I just think this is a great movie, period. I think more people need to see it. It was released at the right time. It couldn't have been released last year, no way. And it might not be released next year. This was the time. With the political sphere we have and the social sphere we have and how race is becoming more and more of an issue in the world around us, I think Selma's a film that needed to be released. Unlike some other biopics that have come out, I'll put the annotation to my right or my left, you'll see. But I think Selma is fantastic. David Oyelowo deserved an Oscar nomination. I'm just going to say that right now. One of two snubs. The rest of the supporting cast between really good and just meh. I don't know. Not great. Nobody's terrible in this movie. I'm telling you, nobody is terrible in this movie. But there are people who just don't live up to like Oyelowo standards, as I'm calling it. There is missed potential, as I said, but overall, Selma is a great movie. You should go see it. Most students I know should go see it. If you are a high school student or a college student, you need to go see this movie, and chances are, if you know anything or are interested in anything about the civil rights movement, you will like this movie. And for that reason, I am giving Selma 9.5 speeches out of 10. So, I'm out of breath. Thank you so much for watching my Selma review on Martin Luther King Jr. Day nonetheless. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, smash that subscribe button. Let's get some subscribers on this channel. Hit the like button, share this on all the social medias. Let me know in the comments below, what did you think of Selma? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Do you think I'm a genius? Do you think I'm insane? Let me know in the comments below and answer this question of the day. If you could see a biopic made about any historical figure, whether it's been made already or it hasn't, what would you like to see made? I don't have an answer. Maybe I'll post in the comments later, but I'd like to know your thoughts. who would like a biopic based on anyone? That being said, once again, subscribe, comment, all that stuff. My name is Brandon David King, a.k.a. The Movie King. Have a happy Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Rest in peace, King. Peace.